Hello there, my name is Luciano Oliveira. I am a Brazilian attorney, also licensed in California and Texas. And today I'm going to be discussing about what are the risks of hiring an attorney who charges too little or nothing upfront. And the reason for this video is because I'm familiar with the US legal system, and in the US legal system, particularly for some fields such as personal injury, is quite common for lawyers and law firms to provide the service without nothing upfront, and in many cases without even charging a fee unless they win the case. But even in the United States, this is going to be constrained to personal injury, right? Like in the personal injury field, it's very common for, like sometimes settlements or verdicts of large amounts, $500,000, $1 million. But again, this is specific to the personal injury when it comes like to, a no win, no fee, right? So even in the United States, for lawsuits in general, aside of personal injury, it does not matter if you are a company or an individual, you're going to be paying an attorney throughout the life cycle of litigation. And by the way, I was a litigator in Dallas, Texas for a couple of years, and I can tell you that I never saw a single lawsuit, again, aside of personal injury, that was going to be offered by the firm, right? Like by the firm in which I was an employee, without, charging kind of every single month there would be a bill for the lawsuit services being provided by that particular law firm. And now in Brazil, there is not so much this culture of charging every month. In Brazil, it's pretty common for many firms and attorneys to actually charge for a particular scope. So let's say if you're going to file a lawsuit and, for the first few months, you're going to charge a fee. And then, afterwards, for the life cycle of the lawsuit, maybe there is a maintenance fee to be charged. And there are several ways of doing so. But again, not common in Brazil at all for an attorney or law firm to work without initial payment. And in addition to the initial payment, some type of payment to follow the life cycle of the case, and potentially a contingency fee based on the results. So I'm going to start by talking about the first risk, which is that you may not get, maybe you're not going to get what you're paying for, right? This is going to be common whenever we see like unrealistic professional fees being charged. And we can tell about that whenever we get a client who's coming from another provider and they said, well, this first provider, they were so affordable, right? Like I didn't think twice. I went ahead and I hired this provider, but like eventually they stopped answering the phone or answering my messages, right? And then in the back of our heads, we say, well, you paid so little, it would be impossible for this professional to actually deliver the service that you were expecting. And sometimes it happens when a specific attorney or law firm, they are not really competitive. They don't have enough clients. They are in a kind of a situation in which they need to pay their bills. And of course, I'm not saying it's correct. I'm just sharing what we know from, our experience with other law firms and attorneys. Sometimes they are in a bind and they are going to say pretty much yes to any prospect knocking on their doors, right? At that moment in time, the urgency is to pay the bills, not to deliver the service. And once they take the client on board, then the client that actually brought the revenue, then the client becomes a problem, because now they paid the bill and the client is right there waiting for a service. And now, they are already thinking about the next client or the next string of revenue. And this becomes a messy situation, right? And of course, this is not the client's fault by any means. But again, if you are engaging with an attorney and paying like an unrealistic fee or paying too little or, nothing at the beginning, there is a good chance that you are dealing with this type of situation, right? Like a provider in a pickle, they need to bring revenue, and they're going to kind of say yes to anything that people offer. But to deliver their service later on, it may not be feasible just because, again, the fees arranged are not realistic. Another thing that we see every now and then is more like a traditional bait and switch. So it may be actually, a firm that is able or capable of delivering the service, but instead of offering something a little bit more comprehensive, in a sense that they know, all right, I see this type of case in the past, and this client is going to need A, B, C, D, E. Instead of showing the whole cost structure for what you need, this firm may say, you know what, if I tell this client about everything that he's going to be spending, I'm going to scare this client away. So instead of telling about A, B, C, D, E, guess what? I'm just going to talk about A. I drafted the contract, the scope is going to show A. And once the client is on board, guess what? The client is working with you. And then as soon as you're being midway through A, you're going to say, well, now there is B and C, by the way. All right, now here's B and C. And then you need to get another contract, and then another contract, and then another contract. But again, from a sales perspective, it's much easier to sell just a fraction of the service, because of course the dollar amount is going to be lower than to give the client an idea about the whole cost. Here at the firm, we want to be very transparent. We want to actually have clients who are going to be able to pay for the service without, disruption to their financials. And therefore, our policy here at the firm is to tell you the truth, is to give you the entire cost schedule for what we see as a potential path for your lawsuit. And the final issue is sometimes you see, attorneys with a lack of experience, or attorneys who are not used to work with clients from abroad, so their knowledge is limited, for instance, in terms of what you're going to need to do abroad, in terms of legalizing documents. They are not familiar with the need for sworn translations. They don't know about the potential security deposit that a judge could ask from a foreign party to participate in a lawsuit in Brazil. So attorneys who have this knowledge, they are naturally more valuable and, as a consequence, more expensive than everyday attorneys or attorneys who do not have experience with foreign citizens. So whenever you are trying to get the lowest price possible, the chances of getting a professional who does not have this knowledge is pretty high. Anyhow, these were some of the thoughts we have on the risks of pursuing the no initial fee type of arrangement, or the lowest type of professional fee you could get out there. I hope these tips were helpful. The idea here is to empower you to make good decisions when hiring an attorney or law firm in Brazil. So I hope those tips were helpful. Don't forget to download our ebook, The 7 Things You Must Know When Handling a Dispute in Brazil, and follow us for more tips.